in this example, we have a list of schools, and let's say in your database you have an additional column called district. So as a business user, you can go into your Lambda Genie account, open up the definition of this grid, go into the list of columns that you can see defined here. We can just clone this column. Our new column is called district. The data field is schools.district. The unique identifier is also schools.district. Click on next. Make sure it's here that we just added this. Click on save. So this saves your configuration of your grid in your Lambda Genie account. This application here is configured to read the configuration for the grid and some other things directly from Lambda Genie. So as you're making changes to your configuration in Lambda Genie, you can, the grid here is configured to call the Lambda Genie API at a certain interval, so the changes aren't immediate. So the configuration is cached inside this application, and as soon as the cache expires, I think it's set to, in this application, it's set to about a minute. So as soon as the cache expires, you can see that new column showed up here. So this is how you can easily control the columns that show here. And not just a list of columns that show here, you can control all the different attributes of the column. So for example, if you want to change the format, the width, the lock mode, let's say you want certain columns to be locked, left locked, right locked, you can change the order. So you want district to show up first, and then you want school, you can do that. If you can change, if the columns are hidden by default, there's a whole bunch of attributes that you can change. And you can also change the hierarchy of columns. If you want grouped columns, or if you don't want grouped columns, you can do that. So all of this is possible via the configuration schemas set up inside of a Lambda Genie. And if you look here, there is the grid column definition, there's the grid definition. So you can, in addition to changing the attributes of the column, you can also change the attributes of the grid. And if you open that up, you can see you can change all these options inside the grid. So this was a quick example of how you can use Lambda Genie to dynamically configure your grid. And what you can also do is you can have different configurations for the grid in different environments. So for example, if you're a SaaS company, your environments could be your customers, and you can define different columns for all of your customers. There's a lot of possibilities here. And in addition to just column definitions, you can also define custom business rules. So for example, you see the color here. This is also configured using business rules that are defined in Lambda Genie. So for example, there's a business rule here called school row color, and you can give it what field, and you can give it, the behavior. So if you look at, in this case, we're saying if this attribute is less than 0.01 and greater than or it's between 0.01 and 0.5, written that color, that color, that color. So you can see these values match that criteria, and it's defined here. And I can change this, and I can say, instead of that color, I could just say, maybe change something else. Click on, and then click on this, and then that should, once the cache expires here, if we click on refresh, you see that changed the color. So again, there's a lot of possibilities here. Everything is configurable. Business rules can be applied to control the logic. And this is just a small example of the logic. There's all different kinds of attributes that you can control, and rules that you can apply completely at runtime without any code. And this can be controlled by your business users or your product people and can be configured and be customized per environment.